Hello, everyone. We are the Casual Ramblers. I'm Jack Richardson, joined by my co-host Will Taylor.
Hello, everyone.
And so we're back again. Probably most consistent we've been in a long time. We've actually two within a week, so that's good. Let's just get straight in about it. We'll start off as usual with the results roundup. Bit of a different one this week as we have got Champions League.
Yeah, a bit of a midweek version, I suppose, of all the Champions League results opposed to anything else. As I always ask you, first of all, results that caught your eye. There's only one standout, surely.
Well,
two,
arguably two, but
I
think we'd have to start with the Man United result.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just
not the one I'd have started with.
But yeah, well, I think in terms of what the result, I suppose they're both as important. I think the thing with the Man United one is it's quite historic. You've seen all the stats. First team to win a return leg after losing 2-0 at home in the first leg.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's it's a bit of, I'm eating my humble pie after what I said about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer last week on Monday.
It's perfect timing.
It is perfect timing. I'll stick my hand up and say, maybe I did go a little bit hard on him, and what I think what they did was fantastic. I think the way they turned it around, Lukaku scored within 2 minutes. He's had a massive turn up of form, which has been really good for him and the team. And I think it all just sort of fell into place with them being questionable for you, apparently, whether you thought it was a penalty in the last minute. But regardless, I thought them going through was deserved. I thought PSG were terrible, but all plaudits to Man United. I thought they did well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying, how have PSG let them win? And it's all about PSG losing, but credit where it's due to Man United. To go out with that starting 11 and actually get a result there. The midfield three of McTominay, Pereira and Fred.
Yeah.
None of them are regular starters for Man United. Coming up against, a good side as well as a good midfield, with Marco Verratti, who's arguably one of the best holding midfielders in the world. Such a good result. And then, I think Greenwood came on, who's now the youngest ever Man United player to play in a Champions League game. It all just came together really nicely. And, as you mentioned, it maybe you were a bit harsh on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It looked really good. Whether this does have a massive effect on his sort of credentials as a manager, might be yet to see that, but I think it could do.
I agree. I think I think everyone always said if you got past PSG, get the job. And I stick my hands up and I'll probably say that my main point on Monday was that I don't think they will get past PSG. Hence, he shouldn't get the job because that was one of the only better teams that they played. But fair play to him, fair play to United. One side note I do want to make about that result is for a 20-something young man, how cool was Marcus Rashford?
If that penalty, even if that's taken by a seasoned pro, you've got to have nerves of steel. That's the first penalty he's ever taken for Man United.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either. But the stats going around is that's one penalty taken for Man United, one scored, and could it have been a bigger one at this stage of his career? We knew he had it in him anyway. He did it at the World Cup.
He did.
And he is, he's one of those players. He has got that ability about him, but nerves of steel. Amidst all of the controversy as well, with a penalty awarded by VAR, to then have to wait around for it to be awarded, then take it and stick it in the top corner past none other than Gigi Buffon.
I mean, that's heartbreak for him. It doesn't look like he'll ever go on to win the Champions League.
That's it for him now, I think.
Bit silly moving from Juventus. I think he was a legend now.
I feel like they had a better chance anyway than PSG of winning one. So silly, a bit silly considering they've now got Wojciech Szczesny in goal. It's not like he would have been pushed for a starting place. But anyway, massive result for Man United, and hopefully the draw treats them as well as all the English teams will. Because
I hope so. Just a side note before we move on to the next result. How do you penalty or no penalty?
For me, I think it's a really weird one. I think when it happened live, none of the players actually appealed for it. So I think the immediate reaction is that's a bit harsh, especially with what the penalty actually means in the grand scheme of things, because that wins Man United the game. It gets PSG knocked out. I feel like if that penalty is awarded at any other time under any other circumstances, it wouldn't be thrown into controversy so much. If that's in the 20th minute of a game, that doesn't really have a big effect. You might just wave it past and go, you know what, fair enough. But I think for me, the fact that no one even appealed it, some of the players seemed shocked that they was even awarded a penalty. So for me, in that situation, it just seems like maybe it wasn't. I don't know about you.
Objectively, I agree with you in that no one appealed for it, and that raises eyebrows. But I think as a defender, as you'll know, you've played football at standard level, that if you turn your back when you're a defender and your arm is in a natural position, which is what it is, it's not from close range. He's a good 10 yards away from him. You're asking for trouble. You turn your back and your arm's out. you're asking for trouble. Fair enough, he's unlucky that it's hit him, but the golden rule of defending is that you never turn your back on a shot. That's what he did, and I think he paid the consequence. For me, it's a penalty, and I think, overall, away from that, I think United did deserve to go through on the night.
Yeah, they deserved it no matter what. So even if it was a slice of luck, they did deserve it. So I'm glad they did get it. And as you said about turning your back, the manager's got to be asking questions. Supposedly one of the better centre halves, especially an up and coming one. He's still quite young. Manager's definitely got to ask questions. You cannot be a centre half at at that level of the game and be turning your back in a game as important as that.
No, I totally agree. But I think anyway, moving on to the next result, one of the biggest ones, I'd probably say, if not the biggest, was Ajax beating Real Madrid 4-1 at the Bernabeu.
I know, fans crying.
Yeah, I mean the question I've got for you, and again it's very objective. Were Ajax that good, or is this just the end of an era for Real Madrid?
I think it's both coming together as one. I think if you watch how Ajax have been in the rest of the Champions League games, and even in the first leg, they were still reasonably impressive. I think Ajax are actually playing brilliant football together. They've got a group of footballers that have just sort of come together to play well as a team. Like you look at Dusan Tadic, wasn't setting the world alight at Southampton.
No, definitely not.
Has come into Ajax and has been brilliant all season. I don't think that's any coincidence. I feel like the coach in there and the players around him, it is coming together nicely. At the same time, Real Madrid, they're definitely at the end of an era. It can't be any coincidence that as soon as Ronaldo's taken out of the team,
Zidane as well,
and Zidane, as soon as those two are taken out of the team, the goals drop, the results drop, just the style of play drops, everything falls apart. I don't think it was a one-man team with Ronaldo. I just think he was the gel that held it together, if you know what I mean. Him and Zidane together. I don't know about you.
No, I totally agree. I think it definitely is the end of an era for Real Madrid. A fantastic era. That's what we can't ignore. They were never going to emulate 3 Champions Leagues in 3 seasons or 4 seasons with a brand new manager and a brand new team. I think getting rid of Ronaldo and Zidane at the same time was a mistake. It should have been one or the other. If Zidane had wanted to step down, they should have tied Ronaldo down to a contract and said stay for 2 more years and solidify what will be a new team being brought through. However, like we always say, we can't take anything away from Ajax. I thought they were fantastic. I thought Dusan Tadic ran the show. He made a mockery out of Luka Modric, who was
supposedly the best player in the world. Yeah.
So I think on that premises, you have to say fair play to Ajax, but Real Madrid were very poor, and that's not something that's going to be forgotten for a long time. How they come from this, I imagine in the summer, Eden Hazard will be called, or certainly someone else will be called. They need a Galactico. They need someone to pick them up and take it by the scruff of the neck. But I do actually think there's a lack of them in the football world at the moment, to be totally honest.
I think so, especially those that would actually make the move. I don't know. I'm struggling to see who, but they will have to sign somebody. I'm just struggling to see.
Well, you've got Cavani, I suppose he's too old. Neymar is the only viable option, really, but I don't actually think he's all he's cracked up to be.
I think
he's failed miserably at PSG in the sense that they've not gone anywhere in Europe, which was their sort of aim. Yes, he was injured, but no, I don't think he's up to much at all. But I think fair play to Ajax. I mean, Dusan Tadic, I know you just touched on it, but how good was he?
He was so good. He was actually incredible. And one thing that I saw, I don't know if you're aware of it, the French newspaper, L'Équipe, the sports newspaper.
How's it pronounced?
L'Équipe.
Yeah, you sticking with that?
I'll stick with that.
Yeah, all right, mate, no
any French listeners, please let me know. But yeah, they are notoriously very harsh with their player ratings. And I saw he is only 9 players in history in their newspaper / magazine have been given a 10 out of 10 performance in European games. 2 of those being Lionel Messi. And yeah, he was the 9th or maybe the 10th. There might have been 9 before him. So that is some accolade.
Yeah, that is some accolade. Yeah,
especially,
absolutely.
Considering he looked almost set for relegation at points in his career at Southampton. It was a big change.
I think fair enough to him. I remember L'Équipe, if that's pronounced right, slaughtered Wayne Rooney after he went out the Euro. So they are very, very harsh, notoriously, as you said. Anyway, still a couple more games to cover in the Champions League. Which was the next one that caught your eye?
Well, I think Spurs going through, winning away from home against Dortmund 1-0 is, although 1-0 doesn't seem impressive, that's actually huge because Tottenham are a team that have had some defensive issues in recent weeks, and Dortmund are a side that average 3 goals at home every game.
So to shut them out, I suppose.
To shut them out and win that 1-0 is exactly the sort of performance that I think Poch would have wanted to see. Maybe not some of the fans, but that is exactly what they needed, and I'm like over the moon for them really as an English club.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I think it's we'll touch on this in just a minute about how it could be time for English teams in European football once more. But I think, fair play to Spurs. Dortmund weren't at the races. It does look a little bit of a troubled time for them in terms of that they were leading the Bundesliga by 10 points, and I think they're level on points with Bayern Munich now. We're only 3 points in it, and they've crashed out the Champions League. And don't get me wrong, as well known to our listeners, we do love a gamble, and I think that's something we would have definitely whacked on Borussia Dortmund. To be totally honest, I would have put my money on them had I done it.
Without a doubt.
But, it wasn't to be. Spurs, I thought Harry Kane played well, getting his goal. A lot of people called for him to be dropped after Spurs had lost the last couple of games, but I think he did quite well.
He did very well. He was I think a typical performance of a top quality striker, a captain. The chances were few and far between, weren't they? Because it was the ball. It was all Dortmund. Yeah. He was just shutting up shop, which was to be expected and well executed. But when the chance did come, he took it very well. Just what he's capable of, isn't it?
Yeah, I think coming back from injury so soon might have been a mistake in that sense that a lot was pinned on him, and I think it was genuinely a rough time for Spurs. But I think Dortmund, didn't contain him well enough. A good goal that he scored, well taken, and Spurs go through. But a fair play to them, and again, we hope the draw has gone to them just as much as anyone. The final one, obviously, Porto in the last minute. It was again an extra VAR penalty in the 115th minute, I think.
It was.
So that was a bit of a shock them going past Roma, wasn't it?
Oh, I think it was. I mean, I know Roma. They're not the greatest side to come out of Italy.
Last season semi-finalists,
they were semi-finalists last season. They did actually impress me. They did really well to even get to the semi-final, beating Barcelona. And then they was good against Liverpool. Like, I think over the two legs, what was it? They scored.
I think it was 4. I think it was actually 4-3, wasn't it? The aggregate score.
Yeah, they were actually almost unlucky. I mean, they was almost unlucky not to make the final.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not in terms of their actual squad. It's not the greatest in Italy. I'd say it's probably not even top 3. But they just always seem to get these results, and I thought this would be another one. I thought they'd get through versus a Porto side that again isn't fantastic. But they just had enough to, fend them off, didn't they?
Penalty looked soft again.
It was a very soft penalty. It was. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was a little tug. He's gone down way too easily, but
that's the issue we could be seeing with VAR. But again, a resolution from VAR as well. But fair play to Porto. There was talk of Mourinho going back there or to Real Madrid, but I think there's no way they're getting rid of a manager.
At this rate, I don't think they need him.
No, I agree. I think a special mention for me has got to go to Ike Casillas. I thought he was fantastic last night.
It's brilliant to see him back.
I thought he did really well. I think it was very harsh the way that Real Madrid treated him initially when he left. I think he's proven that actually, yes. I mean, Courtois was shocking against Ajax.
Oh, the free kick! No disrespect to the Ajax players and the excellent execution, but the free kick he conceded.
You want to see them saved.
Oh my god!
But I think they might have been better off sticking with Casillas, to be honest, rather than going through keepers like they have been.
Or even just Keylor Navas. The whole this is a problem with Real Madrid.
They don't treat their legends.
They get rid of a legend as if it's nothing. Who's not just a legend for them, but just for Spanish football in general.
I don't think he got a testimonial for Casillas.
Absolute joke. And then they bring in a goalkeeper who's no Galactico, but he does well in Keylor Navas. He's the one that's there when they win the Champions League multiple times. Mm-hmm. But then it's just typical Real Madrid cycle. They bring in a Galactico that isn't needed, and look how he's performing. It's
terrible. Yeah, I didn't think he was fantastic at Chelsea. I thought he lifted off that campaign at Atletico Madrid quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I thought he could have. I thought it was a bit of a odd sign in itself. I think Courtois was incredibly disrespectful of how he treated Chelsea, the club that had given him everything since a young age. But I think Casillas was probably the better. Probably, over the course of this season, has certainly been the better keeper, and I think fair play to him that he's in the quarterfinals and Real Madrid aren't.
Yeah, I'm glad he is as well, because I feel like he's sort of been forgotten by the general population of football fans. He's sort of gone under the radar. So I'm glad to see him back in be in the quarterfinal. Hopefully they get a good draw for them.
It's a bit hard for them to get a good draw, but I know exactly what you mean.
I actually want them to get a difficult one per se, just to give
like
them,
Real Madrid,
just to give them that sort of, because they deserve it. They've played well, and it's similar to how you see it in England with like FA Cup runs and stuff. You want them to get a big team, I think.
No, it would be good to see. Obviously, last time they won it many moons ago with Jose Mourinho leading them out. But moving on, still sort of dealing with the Champions League, but on a sort of different debate. So we've obviously got United who are through. City, to all intents and purposes, look like they'll go through at home to Schalke.
Yeah.
They've got 3 away goals. Tottenham are through, and Liverpool, obviously a big ask for them to go away to Bayern Munich, but there's every chance they could get through. An away goal and they're sorted, sort of thing. So, we could potentially be looking at 4 out of the 8 teams in the quarterfinal being English.
Yep.
All draw non-English teams. We could be looking at 4 semi-finalists out of 4. So an all-English final. Is it time for English teams in European football again?
I think this year is the best chance we've had in a long time, and it could be the start of something new. It could be the start of like a new monopoly for English football, in terms of within Europe. Because if you look at it, Liverpool, they've improved again from last season. It looks like they could even still go on to improve more next season. Man City have created something of
a dynasty.
They have created something of a dynasty. Man United, if they carry on the way they're going,
there's no reason they can't win it.
Yeah. And Spurs, things could go really well for them. They're moving into the new stadium. Poch has already started to create his somewhat of a legacy. If he stays, then it looks good for them too. Not to mention, we've still got Arsenal and Chelsea, who are no terrible clubs, who could come into it in years to come.
You'd imagine that those two will. They're the 2 favourites to win the Europa League.
Yeah, definitely. So, every chance. I think this is the year. I think if the draws go the right way, I think no reason why it can't be a all-English final as well.
It's been the first time since I think it's 2008 in Moscow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was a good final, actually.
Was a good final, and it was a good time for English football. Yeah. We had Ronaldo in the league.
I agree. But I think the broadcasting rights that everyone bangs on about and goes on about, even though take away the whole English football and young English stars coming through, I think it's actually a really good. All that money being pumped into the league that everyone's complaining about is finally coming good, because English sides are actually probably at the peak of European football at the minute, with Real Madrid falling, Bayern Munich not what they used to be, Tottenham who look like they're not even in the title race, knocked out the top of the Bundesliga.
Yeah,
I think it looks like a really exciting time for English football. Who do you fancy out of those 4? Obviously, we just discussed the Europa League, but who do you fancy out of those 4? Do you think any of the 4 will win it? And if so, who?
I honestly think... I think my first answer would be Man City. But I actually think it'll be... If an English team does win, it'll be either Manchester clubs. I just think that because the way Man United have played under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they've got nothing to lose. No. I just think they attack every game with everything they've got. And it could end up being a hindrance, It could really come back to bite them. But so far, so good. And I think they're going to go into every game like it's a final. And, if they could, no disrespect to either side, but if they draw Ajax or Porto in the next round, every chance they can get to the semi.
It's a lottery from there, isn't it?
And then, you're 180 minutes minimum away from a final. I don't see why they can't do it. I think, as good as Liverpool are, I think they do have to focus on the league. Whether they will or not, I don't know. And also, they've got the biggest ask to get through to the next round anyway. But for me, Man City first choice, but Man United could be my dark horse. I don't know about you.
No, I think I'd probably agree that City certainly have the legacy, and I think most importantly the squad depth. That if someone, we've seen De Bruyne's been out most of the season injured, and it's not hindered them at all.
Not at all.
They're still smacking teams 6-0. So I don't think I'd say City's my first choice. I don't think it's fair. Obviously, they're got a reputation as a bottle job team, but I don't think it's fair to write Spurs off, because they will go away and lose to Burnley, but then they'll go away to fantastic teams like they went away to the Bernabeu and pick up a result, because that's the sort of team they are. I think we could see. Spurs realise now the title's over. There's no more cup competitions they can win. So is it worth them just saying, make sure we finish in the top 4? Yes, which they pretty much certainly will now, I think. But do they chuck it all at the Champions League and go, rest players before on a Saturday, and chuck it all at Europe and go, let's give this a go? Never won a Champions League, so why not? Why can't they?
Well, I do see what you mean there, because I think. Not quite the same as Man United, but similar to Man United. Spurs also have very little to lose now. They're not they were sort of in a title race a couple of weeks ago. They're not in that anymore. I still think they're safe for top 4 because they can grind out results if they need to, if they want to rest players. They've got just about enough depth to do that. If they attack it the right way, they could do well. I'm not writing them off. I think when you've got Harry Kane in your sides, you've always got some kind of outlet there for goals.
I think they've already met their expectations for the year.
They beat Bayern Munich away. Barcelona away. I don't know where Bayern Munich came from. Barcelona away earlier in this campaign. Albeit against a weaker Barcelona side, it's Barcelona away nonetheless.
Still hard.
And if anything, it wasn't even a full strength Spurs side. No. So they have got the ability in them to win these big games. I think you can make an account for all of the English teams left in it, and I think for me, that's the most important thing.
Okay.
The fact that you can't write any of them off at this stage of the competition is really exciting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that we're, like I said, in a really, really sort of amazing patch of English football, and I think it could lead to years of domination like we used to see. I think it went through a transitional period after Chelsea won it in 2012 with Di Matteo. I think it definitely went through a period where English teams didn't look much like winning it, other than Liverpool last year, obviously. But why can't I just think why can't they? And like you said, you can make a case for every one of the teams.
Yeah.
But I suppose moving on from that, hopefully an English team does win it. But slightly moving on, there's been a bit of boxing news, hasn't there?
Yeah, there has been. A bit disappointing, I must say. It's that Wilder has been ordered to fight Dominic Breazeale. It's a WBC mandatory challenger. It's just. It just gets worse and worse for boxing, doesn't it?
We say this every week. Every week we do the podcast, we have this discussion.
There's always a new bit of news.
Will there be a lineal champion? Will this person fight this person? Fury Wilder, Fury Joshua, Fury, Joshua Wilder. It just doesn't look like it's going to have to be a mandatory fight set by the WBC.
They're all going to retire by the time something happens. It's so annoying. It's another spanner in the works for just any big fight, because it means the Fury Wilder rematch is going to be delayed if that does happen again.
It's just robbing the fans, isn't it? That's what's annoying me now. It's the fans are being robbed out of £20 a time.
Exactly.
Just to watch someone, most like people that aren't massively into boxing like myself. If I saw Fury Wilder, I'd be like, oh my God, fantastic. Try and get tickets wherever it was. You fly out, it's something that's really interesting. You see that, and it's just like, I probably am going to pay to watch it because it's the whole event. It's exciting. It's something to do on a Saturday night, but it's just a bit frustrating, It's in that there's no, but I mean, Breazeale, like you said,
he's earned it. He's a mandatory challenger. So from his point of view, fair enough. But from a fan's point of view,
what if he does it?
It's just. But then again, like, I'd love it if he does, but that's just another spanner in the works.
Yeah,
isn't
I suppose it is. Yeah,
it's like there's this whole thing going on. So the way I see it, Joshua will not fight Wilder or Fury until they have their rematch. Well, that's been further delayed now. Fury's now going to have to find a fight between him and Wilder, I'd imagine. Who's that going to be? I don't know. Could it be Dillian White?
Yeah,
could it be Dillian White? Could it be a smaller, less known American? Which is
it's going to have to be American, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I just don't know where it goes. And then if one of those ends up losing, we've lost this massive opportunity for a huge fight. If Breazeale goes to beat Wilder, I can't see him beating. I do know of Dominic Breazeale. He's a good enough fighter, but not good enough to beat Fury or Joshua. So it's just, I don't know. It's so confusing now. I think it's just so annoying because I felt like 36 minutes before Fury and Wilder drew, we thought all we've got to do is get through this fight, and we've got a huge fight on the cards, no matter who wins this one. And the fact they ended in a draw is just really ruined
the worst
everything.
Result. It's the worst result it could have been. They're delaying a rematch, and then the rematch after that, we'll see a massive delay for the lineal championship, whoever that may be. But I think Joshua's now obviously arranged his fight. Fury's got to arrange his. It's going to be towards the end of the year that we see a big fight. If we
any sort of just progression,
and
because anything like Joshua can lose. Dillian White can go. I don't know who Dillian White would even fight now. Breazeale's obviously not going to. It's not going to be him. He's not going to have a rematch with Joseph Parker.
Or it could be Fury could fight Parker as well.
Yeah, I just don't. The only positive I can take from this is at least it can sort of blow it up a little bit, and we can have more than just these 3 challenges.
Yeah.
It could.
There's room for someone else to sneak in.
It could reveal some more great bits of boxing. It could reveal some more boxers coming through. That's the only positive I can take from it. But I think the bottom line is it's so frustrating. I just don't think we're going to see Wilder, Fury, or Joshua fight any of each other for. It's got to be a year at least.
Well, the thing is, Joshua's not getting any younger as North Tyson Fury. Like, he come out of retirement once. He's got that's got to be in his mind. He's not young, and nor is Wilder. You're looking at they've got maybe 2-3 years max left in the ring
at this highest level. Yeah, because they're all around 30. I think Joshua's 29. Wilder 31, I think Fury's 30, so they're all within 2 years of each other. But it needs to
be within the next 2 years at the highest level. You know, it really, really needs to be. I mean, yes, fair enough. We've seen David Haye drag out a very, very long boxing career where he lost the belly twice.
Look how it ended.
Exactly, that's not what we want. I think we need, and I don't want it to be how long people waited for Mayweather Pacquiao. No one
wasn't worth it in the end.
No, it wasn't.
People paid for it, but it wasn't worth it. Like, they made their money, but the fans didn't really get their money's worth.
And that's I think that's, again, we spoke about this in terms of football. I think that's what it does come out to be now, doesn't it? Is that it's not actually about fans getting their money's worth anymore. No. It's a little bit about how can we milk the most money possible out of people altogether. It's like I saw after the Bellew Hay fight, there was all this animosity, all this, Hay saying he's going to put him in hospital and stuff about his kids and stuff, and they give each other a cuddle after the fight, and it all looks a bit like an act, and I'm not sure, how real it actually is, which is very frustrating.
It's starting to feel like WWE or something.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, with people avoiding each other and fighting this person instead of that person.
It was the same as, a little bit unrelated. I know it's boxing, but it's not sort of an official fight. But when Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fought, it came out afterwards that they actually shared private jets to the events. Like, even though there was all that trash talk, the whole time they was in cahoots, and it's just ruins everything. It's like,
you missed the days where it was like Ali, don't you? And he was actually bad talking to someone. And
exactly. And then they hated him after the fight as well, because that's how it should be. Like, I understand you can respect the other fighter as a sports person after the fight. You can go, you know what, you gave me a good fight there, but I still don't like you. Well, I still want to beat you again in the future.
I think the thing is, you can, you say that, there's only a certain amount of respect you can have for someone you just hit.
Exactly.
Like,
I can understand you going, oh, you really gave me a good fight. You hurt me a bit there, but at the end of the day,
you've just knocked him out.
If you've just been hurt by someone, you don't give them a hug after and you go, I can't wait to get back at you. Like, give me another 12 rounds, I'll do you in. Like, I just don't understand where this comes from.
Never seen that outside a club, have you?
No, you don't have a fight in a club and afterwards you've been taken outside by the bouncer and you go, you know what? Fair enough, I respect you. We can go train at the same camp. We can go. It's stupid. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, it is. I totally agree. Hopefully, we do see that big fight at some point. If it ever happens, which I'm sure it will be mandatory by the WBC.
I really hope so, because it's just so annoying because it felt so close.
It really did. It really did. But moving on, I saw something on a column today.
Okay.
Very interesting. Jurgen Klopp obviously done very well with Liverpool subjectively. He's not won anything as of late, but we'll see what happens at the end of the season in that respect. Although Jose Mourinho is the favourite with the bookies, apparently they've very, very heavily set their sights on Jurgen Klopp. What do you make of that?
For Real Madrid?
For Real Madrid.
I'm not sure what I make of that, to be honest. It could just be complete paper talk and just, a load of lies. I'd imagine there is some truth to it because that's the Real Madrid way. They have a position, be it manager, be it player. They find the best at that job, or at least one of the best. And Klopp is up there, so I would not be surprised at all if they've looked at him.
Can they afford to go backwards with Mourinho? That's my only question. So would they then lean towards Klopp? Do you see what I mean? I
feel like I can understand them wanting Klopp, and I can imagine he would do well there because he's a good manager. Because he's done it with budgets, he's done it without budgets. But I just feel like he shouldn't leave Liverpool just yet. I feel like he does have to win something. I think he deserves to win something, and it would be a bit, if you pardon the pun, it would be a bit of a cop out if he left Liverpool to go for maybe not an easier job now with the transitional period they're going through, but to go to Real Madrid at this stage, it feels too early for me. I think if he does do it at some point, I don't know about you.
No, I'd probably agree that it is. If he does say he does the double, where he wins the Champions League and the Prem this year,
fair enough.
Let him go. I think that's fine. I think he's done what he can and he's leaving the club in a good position. Regardless, I think if he goes, he's leaving the club in a good position. However, the way he could not win the league this year and finish 10th in the Premiership next year and get knocked out of all competitions in the first round and he wouldn't lose his job. That's how adored he is by the board. That's how adored he is by the fans. His job is safe. If it was an off-season, they'd give him an off-season. I think his job is permanently safe until he decides otherwise, other than something really drastically bad happening.
You look at how much he's turned Liverpool around. not that long ago, Liverpool were a club that they were a shadow of what they used to be. Back, not even that long ago, even within 5 years, they had Andy Carroll starting up front.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
They still had Dirk Kuyt in the team. They still, he's
what a player.
But on his day. But Jesus, they had Glenn Johnson in the team.
Yeah, they did.
He has turned them around so much, and he spent a little bit of money, but doesn't everyone have to in these days?
Yeah.
He spent it in the right places. He knows what he wants. He gets what he wants, and what the team needs ultimately. And he's turned them around so much. They're performing like a team reminiscent of the old Liverpool.
Yeah.
And as you said, he will not get sacked unless something drastic. Like, he would have to get relegated.
I think so.
And even then, I think the ball will go, I think he gets back up.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I think that's the point I'm making, really, is that you got a job where at Real Madrid, if he doesn't win anything in the first 2 years, he'd go there. If he goes, he's lost his job. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he'd be short for jobs after that, but he's got such a good gig at Liverpool. He's adored by the fans. He's adored by the players. He's adored by the board. He's adored in Liverpool. He's adored by the English press, which is not something that comes lightly.
That's not easy, is it?
That's not easy at all. He's adored by everyone. I think he would be a bit foolish to go. But at the same time, flip side of it, from Real Madrid's perspective, first things first, if they are going for him, do you think it makes sense? Do you think
I think it makes sense, yeah.
A manager that's only ever won 2 trophies?
I still think it makes sense, because I know Zidane's a bit different, but they still brought him in. And that was very unlike Real Madrid, I thought.
I would think I'd disagree with that, in the sense that they did like to bring their B managers through. That was a bit of
they do, but then if you look at if you look before that, they brought Mourinho in.
Yeah,
he's had success in Inter Milan and Porto and Chelsea.
No,
they brought in Carlo Ancelotti. They do in the past sort of decade. They have liked to bring in serial winners.
Yeah.
I know. But at the same time, they do always have this. They just want the best of everything.
Yeah.
So I would totally understand them bringing in Klopp, because there was also with Pochettino, another manager that hasn't won anything. So I would understand it.
I would slightly counter that in that I don't think Pochettino's been. I think he's not won anything fair enough, but I also don't think he's been in 7 cup finals.
Yeah, this is true.
And lost all of them.
I think
there does seem to be a bit of a mentality problem with Klopp. That's the thing.
Serial loser, whether that's down to him. I mean, it looks like it at this point.
With 2 different teams in that amount of finals, it does look like it's down to him. And if Liverpool do go on to not win the Premier League, that won't help his cause at all.
In his defence, though, any final he's been in, I don't think he's ever been the favourite. If you look at Dortmund, Bayern Munich were an outstanding team at that time. In 2012, they were incredible. Robert Lewandowski at the top of his game. Thomas Müller was still excellent. They had Philipp Lahm. Manuel Neuer was still the best goalkeeper in the world. Dortmund, they sort of came from nowhere that year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
A lot of players came through the cracks and did really well. Goetze was only young. Ilkay Gundogan came through and he was a brilliant player, earning himself a move to Man City later on. I think with Liverpool last year against Real Madrid, they didn't go into it favourites.
No, they didn't.
I think the only final where he probably should have won was when they made the Europa League final.
Sevilla, yeah.
That was not good. I think they should have won that one.
No, and I suppose they weren't favourites against City in the League Cup final a couple of years ago.
They could have won the League Cup final, but again, it wouldn't have been one where they were favourites. So I think...
I understand what you mean about not being favourites, but good managers who win good things aren't always favourites for finals and win.
This is where it comes in, yeah. I just think he is a very good manager, and I don't know who else is available for them.
There is a shortage of good managers as well.
Good serial winners. Yeah. So this might even be their plan B.
Yeah.
In terms of what they want. So
I think they will take a step back with Mourinho, but if not, they will certainly look towards both Pochettino and Klopp. But we'll see what happens on that one. That will certainly be a story that develops over the coming months. Moving on from that one, still sticking with football. I think I cannot remember the letters or what order they're in, but the governing body of football, shall we say, the laws of the game makers have introduced some more laws of the game.
I don't know if it's worldwide or... I know it was definitely the EFL.
I think it might be. I think it might just be England.
But there's 5 new law changes or additions, if you will. The one for me that stands out the most is, well, maybe not stands out the most, but in terms of controversy in recent years, is the no rebounds from penalties. Now, I don't know where I stand with this one. On one side, I think it's good because if you look back, one moment that I remember is earlier this season, Man United played Everton, and Paul Pogba spent 10 minutes running up to kick the ball.
As he does, yeah.
As he does, missed the penalty, great save from Pickford, scores a rebound, everyone forgets he missed a penalty. I think that is very unfair on a goalkeeper. If you save a penalty, if you do that well to save it, the player that took it shouldn't be allowed to score the rebound as he's closer than everyone else. You know, he should also be 18 yards away, if you know what I mean. He's got an unfair advantage. On the flip side, if you remember back to Leicester-Watford in the playoff semi-final, players had his penalty saved. Defender, player's gone to the rebound, he's saved again, it's then cleared. That will never happen ever again because the defender can't even get the rebound. The play's restarted like from a free kick. Surely that...
I mean, it's also a very... For me, fundamentally what you're saying I understand and I get. In that, you know, it won't happen with the Almunia thing, which leads to so much joy and jubilation and makes football what it is. But also the flip side that, you know, you don't want to see keepers being discredited. My issue, more than anything, I think, is that it's a very grey area in that how do you manage it? What if the keeper, you know, sort of palms it out and then it rolls back into the goal? What then? Yeah. When do you stop?
Or what if the keeper I don't think this has ever happened, but what if the keeper saves it and parries it out of the 18-yard box?
Yeah, exactly.
Then what happens? Can you play on from there?
Play on from there, exactly.
And also, the thing I want to know is, because when I read about the new rule change, it basically said that players will no longer have to queue up on the 18-yard box. They can stand wherever because they're not going to rebound. If the keeper saves it, can a striker from his side stand on the halfway line and they just play it quick, over the top, he'll be onside? Can this be a new tactic?
Not if what you want about the restart of play. If that is, I'm not 100% sure.
Like, it depends. I don't know how they do it. Like, how will they go?
It sounds like it'd be a goal kick or something like that. What if he tips out?
But if he catches it, like, do they then still take the goal kick? Can he kick it out of his hands? I just feel like it's a very grey area.
No, and it hasn't been well explained, and I don't know if it's been that well thought about. I think the sentiment's certainly there in the discrediting keepers.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like there's more and more things at the moment that are making football more stop-start, which isn't what people want to see. I think there's more and more things going, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, which is going to become a problem. But, you know, it is the law and people are going to have to get used to it. We've seen laws before where we've shrugged that and they've ended up being fine.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be another one. Any other sort of caught your eye out of the 5?
I think in terms of sort of effectiveness, the substitutes can leave anywhere on the pitch. The nearest sort of exit from the pitch than the closest touchline. That is a very good rule change. I think that's something we've always needed. Players having to walk to the halfway line, exit there, it's just an excuse to time waste. I think this way, if it's enforced, like how it could be, it can really speed the game up. It can prevent time wasting.
Quick question: is it time wasting or game management? Because it's a.
Well, I think when it's our teams, game management, I think that tends to be the way it goes.
All right.
And when I've played football, I'm the worst for it. I am big on game management, so it would definitely affect me.
You changed the word even then.
But yeah, I think when it's against you, this will be a very good rule change. It could be frustrating for some, but I think, you know, if you look at it as an outsider, it is a good rule change.
I think
without any sense
from a neutral, I think you are right. But again, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to have happened. You know, it's a horrible thing to happen that people can time waste like that. But, you know, it was... And although goal line technology has been brilliant, at the time it felt like a bit of a horrible thing to happen because it takes the joy out of...
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of it's just a bit like hard to get your head around because it's sort of what makes football so magical. And it feels like that's sort of slowly, like I just mentioned, being stripped out of the game, which I don't know if I like.
I sort of feel as if these rules are coming in and we all sort of go at first, oh, I don't like that. And eventually it's like, oh, it's not that bad. I feel like that's just us getting used to it. It doesn't mean it's actually a good change. We've just got used to it. And I feel like it's slowly becoming this streamlined version of the game, which has been made perfect in someone's eyes. Not I don't think for the fans and even for the players. And I think we're just sort of having to get on with it. But I feel like eventually we'll look back and football will be a worse game.
I agree. I think the main thing that I love about football and always have loved the football is that a lot of the game is down to human error. I know that sounds ridiculous, but, you know, someone the centre half slices a clearance and it goes in the top corner for your team, you're absolutely ecstatic. Human error, but fantastic. Your player dives in the box, but the ref doesn't have VAR to look back and click on it. Fair enough, you shouldn't dive, but if you've won your penalty, and it's just, but they go for and against you, and it balances out over a season. I don't care what anyone says. I think if you look over the course, I think it balances out the course of the season. And if it goes against you, well, tough. That's just football. I don't think it's a game that's ever been built up to be. This needs to be 100% accurate. However, with the money coming into it, it's now become that. And as I've always maintained, the more it goes on, the more law changes. The other three, which we'll quickly whip through. The further we're getting away from the game that we all know and love. Like, we went to Historic v Torquay last Tuesday.
No technology there.
There was no technology there at all. Without, I don't know if there's a camera there, video and highlights.
I don't even know if the fourth official had an electronic substitution board. I think he was flipping through the numbers.
No, I think you're right. It was very like that, but that's one of the most. I love that level of football. I think that's what it's all about. Yeah. I think that's what it's all about. But that's what it will be. If anyone wondering, we're not going to go through the laws individually, but the other three are any goals scored with arms will be,
whether it's intentional or not, it will just be ruled out.
Will be ruled out.
And no attacking players.
Was it 4 or 5?
I think it was 5.
Was it 5? Do you remember the other one?
Oh yeah, managers getting cards and no attacking players in a wall from a free kick.
Yeah, again, all just very tedious little rules, which
we'll get used to them eventually. But right now, it's just going to seem annoying when we see it happening in games. But it is what it is. As usual, we do like to end things with a bit of a debate. And one that I sort of came across the other day, I was talking to a few of my friends. We was looking at the best of the rest in the Premier League. So you've got your top 6 pretty much set, haven't you?
100%.
You've got the 2 Manchester clubs, United, Chelsea, Spurs, and Liverpool. When it comes to 7th, say there was a league from 7th to 20th, who wins that league? Who is the best for you?
Bit out there because it is their first season in the Premiership. I'm going to go for one this season and what I will think be in the future. I think this season it will be Wolves, and I think they are probably player for player, man for man, the best of the rest. I think they've got it all across the pitch. The only thing they're lacking, really, I think, is a big goal-scoring striker. They've got one of the best young midfielders in the Premiership, in Ruben Neves, in the world, arguably. Rui Patricio, which was quite a coup for them. Would get in, arguably would challenge most of the top 6 keepers into challenge their spot. So I think Wolves probably have the most in them. Structurally, they've got the best sort of setup. They've got £1 million training facilities, £1 million developments on their grounds going on. Really rich Chinese owners. George Mendes pulling all the strings, signing who he wants that's on his books, which is pretty much every high-end player. So I think with that, they are the best of the rest, and they will probably continue being the rest of the rest. However, Leicester's appointment of Brendan Rodgers, I feel, could bring a massive resurgence in them.
Definitely could.
In that, he's got contacts. Fair enough, he didn't, it's a bit of an odd move from him, but, he has moved. That's his decision. I think what he did at Celtic can't be overlooked. I think he did well at Liverpool, and I think he will certainly push that top 6 when he gets going at Leicester. So that would be my argument, that it'd be Wolves for now, but whether
Leicester in the future.
Be interesting to see what Rodgers could do in the future. Because you just don't know what will happen at Wolves.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me, honestly, without any bias intended, I do think the best of the rest is West Ham, especially this season.
With no bias intended.
Honestly, I'm really trying here. No bias intended. I think if you look at what they've got, first of all, they've got Declan Rice, huge for England, by the way.
The Irish one.
Well, now English, which is I'm buzzing. I think everyone should be excited about that. I think the fact that I see him week in, week out, it goes unnoticed how good he is. But honestly,
I think we'll stray into a different debate because I'm not very happy with that. But we'll discuss that.
Okay, we digress. So anyway, brilliant midfielder in Declan Rice. I think the new signing this season at centre half, Issa Diop, is very soon going to be on his way to Man City, Man United, PSG, one of these clubs. There was already rumours for him leaving in January. Thank God that didn't happen, but there was big prices being talked about. It looks like Arnautovic is on his way out, which is a shame because he was an excellent goal scorer. One of the top goal scorers for one of these lower sides, which is which is good to see. And also in terms of what they've got this huge stadium which they pay absolute peanuts for. I don't know how they managed to get away with it, but it happens. So I think, and with Pellegrini as manager, he's got lots of ideas. He's had experience at different levels. He's won the Premier League. He's done well in Europe, in like the Spanish league with Malaga it was. So if he can stay on for a couple of seasons with the money that they can bring in, that could be very exciting. The reason I do also think Wolves, I think it is between West Ham and Wolves. The only problem I have with Wolves is, first of all, their first season back in the Prem, so it could go downhill. We don't know that. And with the whole George Mendes thing, as good as it is, there's definitely something dodgy going on. So if there's something to counter that, if that gets found out and there's fines or sanctions or points deductions, what happens then? That's the only reason I don't say Wolves, is I am a bit worried for them. I just feel like it's gonna they're doing something dodgy, and I just feel like it will catch up with them.
I think. Personally, I think they'd have been. I think that's been investigated by several Championship clubs as they all went from last year. Maybe it will, but I think they're only clear. My only issue, I suppose, with West Ham is that it keeps happening where what a fantastic managerial appointment. Look at all these fantastic signings. Look at all this money spent. Look at our 60,000 seater arena. Look at this, but you always seem to fall short. There always seems to be that last, And don't get me wrong, you're a West Ham fan. I fully respect that, and you actually go, unlike people that would not, But can you class yourself as the best of the rest? When fair enough, you're beating Man United at home. When you're struggling against the lower teams,
it is very typical West Ham. Beating Man United at home, beating Arsenal at home.
Holding Chelsea to a
0-0 back when they were flying as well. This was early on in the season when they were doing really well.
You pushed City all the way.
Drew 0-0 drew 1-1 with Liverpool, which dented their title hopes, which was very
pushed City all the way when you're away from home as well.
Losing 1-0 to a soft penalty at City away from home, but then going to lose silly little games and struggling against Burnley away. It is very typical West Ham. I just hope with the manager in place now, it can be built upon with some of the young players coming through. And sort of the structure of the club, I think it can go uphill. That might be, very positive thinking, but only time will tell.
Okay, so final question just before we finish up: who's going to finish higher, Wolves or West Ham?
I'm going to have to say West Ham.
Stick a tenner on that.
I'll stick a tenner on that.
There we go. Just handshake for no one who.
There is a handshake
for those who can't see. But I suppose we'll see who wins a tenner come the end of the season. Regardless, anyway, that is about all we have time for. Running over a little bit of time. We have gone a bit over today, but hopefully it is all enjoyed. Absolutely. Thank you very much all for listening. We do very much appreciate it. As we always say, if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, please do let us know.
Please do. We happy for you to be open with us.
Exactly.
We'll listen to anything.
Any feedback, anything like that, massively appreciated. So please join us next week. I believe we'll have back to usual on Monday, probably next week, won't we?
We'll be back on Monday looking at the Premier League over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll suss out those results for you. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, goodbye.